Hi, Jim.
Oh, hi, Andrea. Come in and sit down. What's up?
I'd like to share some concerns I have about the approach you're taking to developing your direct reports. Can I have 10 minutes of your time to talk about this now?
Sure. What's all this about?
Well, here's what I'm seeing. I've observed that when you set expectations, they're not often clear enough, not set in measurable terms. Your people walk out of the meeting with you not knowing what you expect them to deliver, something they don't find out until you criticize or lecture them. Now, I know your intentions are focused on their success, but it doesn't land that way with them. Would it be helpful if I gave you some examples?
Well, that's not true. I give very clear instructions. All of my people know what's expected of them.
Well, let's test this hypothesis. Do you remember what you told Jose to do?
Yes, I told him to prepare the proposal on funding Project Green. I told him to follow the guidelines we've set in the past and to have it ready to present at our staff meeting. It had to meet the budget we set up in the beginning of the year.
And what did you think of what Jose did?
Well, Jose included some very creative ideas, but the risks he was proposing were unacceptable, something he would have known had he done his homework and consulted with the resources we have available. It was a glaring mistake, and I told him that right there during the meeting.
So, how do you think he feels now after your reaction during the presentation?
Frankly, I hope he feels embarrassed. That way he won't forget to do his homework the next time he puts together a proposal.
Well, you're right, Jim. Jose is feeling very embarrassed and ashamed. He didn't know about some of those resources you said he should have known about. He told me that this isn't the first time you criticized him in public for what he sees as an unreasonable expectation for someone who's new to your organization. And he's not the only one. Susan has come to me with similar complaints. And as you may recall, Brian cited lack of clear guidelines and expectations as his reason for leaving last year. This is a pattern, Jim, not only with Jose, but with Susan and a few of the other people on your team. Jose has asked me to help him look for another opportunity elsewhere within the company. He doesn't think he can succeed under your management. Susan has expressed similar concerns. Were you aware that Jose and Susan were this unhappy?
No, I'm not. Why aren't they coming to me with those concerns?
I think that's an excellent question, Jim. What's your theory about why they haven't come to talk to you about this?
I don't know. But honestly, if they can't step up and ask me for what they need, perhaps they aren't the kind of leaders we want in this company.
Well, that's one way of looking at the situation, Jim, but given the hit you took last year on the Developing Others section of your 360, I, as your human resource business partner, am going to recommend that you look at it differently. I'm bringing this up with you now because I think there's still time for you to turn this around, and I think it's something that I can help you with. The question in my mind is whether you're willing to make these changes in your behavior.
What changes are those?
Well, I think you need to develop a little more empathy for your direct reports, particularly the ones who are new to your organization. Try to put yourself in their shoes and think about what they would need in order to be successful. For example, if you were Jose, now 2 weeks into a new job, what would you want from your manager?
Well, I'd want sufficient background information and a boss who answered my questions without making me look like a fool for asking.
I agree. From what Jose has told me, both of these would be welcome changes. And I think there's one more thing that Jose would need in order to feel confident that he could be successful working for you. Jose needs to know how you're going to be measuring his performance. He needs to know what you're looking for and the criteria you're going to be using to evaluate his performance. And he needs a bit more support and direction, not forever, but just until he learns how things are done in Jim's Department of Finance.
Okay, I get it. I'll start tomorrow. I know what to do.
I wish it were that easy, Jim. Changing a deeply entrenched pattern like this is never easy. It takes motivation, planning, and perseverance. And for most of us, it takes support in the form of someone holding you accountable for making the change. Let's start with your motivation. What payoffs do you see for making some changes in how you delegate and give feedback?
Well, for one thing, Jose and Susan would be less likely to bail on me, and then there's the Developing Others box on my performance review.
Well, why is that important to you?
It's important to my boss. I'm certainly not going to be promoted with a subpar score on Developing Others. especially given the heightened focus on leadership competencies.
Fair enough. What else? What other motivations do you have for making it easier for people to succeed under you?
Well, I'd like to see my people succeed. Jose's one of the smartest analysts to come through here in a long time, and Susan has the makings of a future executive. It took me a long time to find and recruit them. To lose either one of them now would be a real setback, not to mention that it really wouldn't look good for me, particularly in light of losing Brian last year. If I'm starting to get a reputation as someone talent leaves, well, I don't like it.
Okay, it sounds like you have some personal motivation to do something about this. But I also know that when push comes to shove, you focus on things that are going to impact the bottom line, which I think is a good thing for someone in your position. So what do you see as the business case for making this change in your behavior? What impact would your moving the needle on this have on the business?
Well, I spent $52,000 in recruiting fees to get Jose and Susan in the door. If either walks, it could take another $26,000 to replace them, and that's not including the time I'd need to invest to find someone new and the loss of productivity associated with being a person short. Listen, you don't have to convince me that this is a business issue. Believe me, I get it. What I don't get is how I'm going to make the necessary changes in my behavior. I mean, it's not like this is the first time this issue has been pointed out to me. It was even listed as a derailment risk for me on an assessment instrument I took as part of a leadership program a few years ago. I've tried to change my behavior. When I did, it worked for a while, but then I always reverted to my old habits. Why would this time be any different?
That's a great question, one I'd like to answer next time we meet. How about if I set up a 45-minute appointment with you later this week to think through how you're going to change your behavior, win back the trust of your direct reports, and ensure that they have what they need from you to be incredibly successful. Does that work for you?
Works for me.
I really appreciate you hearing me out on this one.
Andrea.
Yes?
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Jim.